This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
Real Talkers, we're coming to you on the same day that Alberta's Premier is slated to appear alongside popular right-wing podcaster Ben Shapiro at an event down in Florida. Rob Breakenridge, a longtime political commentator out of the province of Alberta. He's been talking about Danielle Smith's politics when she was a Wild Rose leader. Hell, he might have even been reporting on Danielle Smith when she was a school board trustee down in Calgary. Rob has seen it all. He's written columns in the national newspapers. He's hosted a longtime talk radio show, and most recently he's writing for The Line at readtheline.ca, taking a tone different than some Alberta conservatives. The headline, Danielle Smith might want to lay low for a while. That's exactly where we're going to go in this episode of the show. Plus, we're going to get you up to speed on Donald Trump and tariffs taking aim at Canada's auto sector, what premiers and the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, now technically Liberal leader through the course of this campaign, are saying about it. Plus, Alberta's opposition and a whole lot more. We're grateful to have you here with us, and I want to let you know that this episode of Real Talk would not be happening without the team at Business Career College and their presenting sponsorship today. They want every financial advisor and senior finance professional that's watching this to know about their new designation. It's the CDAA. That's the Certified Digital Asset Advisor designation that covers everything from the foundations of how Bitcoin and blockchain actually work, all the way through to next-gen cryptocurrencies and strategies for advising clients. Polling shows that the next generation of investors, Gen Z, 3/4 of them are intrigued by or interested in hearing more about decentralized finance, so you're going to want to be able to give them informed advice. This is future-proofing your own career. You'll get into Ethereum, decentralized finance, smart contracts, wallets, custody, and exchanges. How much do you know about that? They'll move on to NFTs and tokens, crypto in your practice. You can enroll today at businesscareercollege.com. You're looking for the CDAA designation. And because you're hearing about this on Real Talk, the promo code Ryan20, all one word, Ryan20, will knock 20% off your investment in your career. That's Ryan20 today at businesscareercollege.com. PragerU is hosting this event down in Florida today, and Alberta's Premier will be appearing there alongside very popular right-wing podcaster Ben Shapiro. It's the next step in the Alberta Premier's ongoing efforts to influence American politics by reaching out via conservative media platforms. But her most recent interview, or at least the one that's making the most news, has put the Premier, and perhaps even more so Conservative leader, federally, Pierre Poilievre, in a tough spot. You've heard about it here on the show over the past couple of episodes. The Premier telling Breitbart that Pierre Poilievre's perspective aligns with the new direction of America. Well, that's the exact opposite message that Poilievre's been sending to Canadians through the first 5 days of this campaign. How badly could it hurt that federal conservative campaign? It's a pleasure to welcome longtime political commentator Rob Breakenridge back to the show. He's the author of a piece in The Line, Danielle Smith might want to lay low for a while. Rob, it's nice to see you again, my man. How's it hanging in there?
Yeah, likewise. Pretty good, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Election campaigns is when everybody gets all geared up, and it's when, even the casual political watchers start to pay closer attention. Has Danielle Smith been the story or one of the top stories of the first week of this federal campaign?
Yeah, kind of inadvertently she has. I mean, this interview was a few weeks before the writ actually dropped, so I don't know if she thought it was going to be quite the bombshell that it turned out to be. But it's interesting. I mean, first of all, Danielle Smith gives this speech yesterday, and, it's all kind of woe is me and everybody's attacking me. But she didn't really actually address kind of the chief concern here, that there's a real political bent to what she's trying to do, right? The whole idea that she said in this interview that she asked the administration to pause tariffs during the election so it didn't help the Liberals. Now, she faced all kinds of accusations about election interference. maybe she just thought in her own weird way that that might be one way of trying to convince Republicans or even the White House to back off on tariffs. Whatever the case, I mean, she said it and she hasn't really addressed it. So her whole speech yesterday was about, I'm, trying to make a difference and everybody's attacking me and the left wants me to shut up and all of this kind of woe is me, the martyrdom complex. And on the same day, by the way, that the auto sector got slapped with tariffs by the Trump administration, and she hasn't really had anything to say about that. So I get what she's trying to do, or in her mind, maybe what she thinks she's trying to do, but I do wonder if at some point she's doing more harm than good.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that the left is saying, piling on the premier. The left is saying that the premier needs to lay low for a while. You're not the left. The Line isn't a left online publication. Pierre Poilievre's War Room isn't the left. I mean, there seems to be consensus here. It's not been helpful.
I don't, honestly, I'm sure the Liberals wouldn't mind if she keeps saying things like that. Because I think it does help, that she's in cahoots with Republicans or even the White House, or the idea that Pierre Poilievre and Donald Trump are on the same page on a lot of things. Do you think the left really wants her to stop saying that? No, I think it's conservatives who would probably like her to stop saying that. And again, I mean, this whole approach that she takes, right, where it's, I'm going to do it my way and I don't care if it makes you mad. And then when people say, oh, well, kind of makes us mad, and it's, why are you attacking me? So I think there's some fair points that she needs to address and hasn't addressed. But look, at the same time, if she's going to make the case against tariffs, I don't think that's a problem necessarily. We've seen Doug Ford do it, other premiers do it. And again, in fairness, at the outset of this whole crisis, right? Remember, Justin Trudeau was kind of AWOL, so it almost fell to the premiers to sort of take the leadership here. But look, again, I mean, this is federal jurisdiction. We have one prime minister, and I don't know if it helps to have different messages, premiers freelancing. Maybe we do need a bit of coordination here, but there's a whole big political backdrop to all of this.
Yeah, I think like optically and even like operationally, I can understand why this puts conservative premiers in a bit of a tough spot, in the sense that Rob, they very effectively have railed against the Trudeau Liberals for like 10 years. And you've kind of had that consortium at one point. Everybody remembers that Maclean's cover with like Brian Pallister and Doug Ford and Scott Moe and Jason Kenney at that time. But that kind of like conservative, that middle Canada block, right? The prairies and a little bit east of all of these conservative premiers. And so now to say, well, Canada's got to come together and we're uniting under the flag and we're going to align, or, we're going to sort of stand collectively strong under this federal Trudeau government. I get why some of them, like they couldn't, that would be their worst nightmare. They can't imagine the photo ops. They don't want to stand together. Danielle Smith didn't. She didn't sign that letter. You remember. And then in comes Mark Carney. And regardless of the incongruence or the hypocrisy around people complaining that Carney wasn't elected and he was appointed prime minister. I mean, same thing happened with Danielle Smith in Alberta. But the point still is that maybe even tougher for a premier like Danielle Smith to back Mark Carney. So she doesn't like the optics of that, so she's going to go it on her own. Doug Ford's done kind of sort of the same thing. But how would you compare or contrast those two premiers? They've easily been the two most prominent when it comes to American media advocacy.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference. I mean, Danielle Smith complains that there's a bit of a double standard here, that Doug Ford gets a pass for trying to reach out to Americans and she doesn't. And whether that's true, I mean, the big difference is that Doug Ford has shown a willingness to get mad. Like he's denounced the tariffs, denounced the White House, and spoken in some very tough language. And I think in that sense, he's better read the public mood. Like, okay, we tried the nice approach. Let's try to reach out and make a case. And that's not getting through. And we're getting hit with tariffs. Maybe it's time to get mad. And at no point really have we seen Danielle Smith really get mad. And maybe in her mind, she's still thinking, well, if I'm nice and I could still maybe get through. And okay, but I think that's the big difference between Danielle Smith and Doug Ford. Doug Ford realizes the public wants to see, some table pounding, some anger, some righteous anger, and we just haven't seen any of that. In fact, Danielle Smith has shown more anger toward the federal government and in some cases other premiers than Trump and the White House. So that's been a factor. And look, you mentioned Mark Carney and how she's approached Mark Carney. There's this whole domestic political factor where the UCP have had the Trudeau whipping boy for years. He's gone. I think they're worried that they might lose the whole idea of, we're standing up to Ottawa and fighting back against the Liberals. So the big dynamic here is, look, I don't think the UCP or Danielle Smith have as much of a vested interest as the federal conservatives do in how this election turns out. And the way she's framing Mark Carney is worse than Trudeau, and we're making these demands, and it's going to be a unity crisis. right? That's all about trying to preserve this whole identity. It's so core to her political brand that she's standing up against liberal Ottawa.
We're talking to Rob Breakenridge. If you're just joining us on the Real Talk live stream presented by California Closets, you can read his piece. It's just out on The Line. That's at readtheline.ca. Danielle Smith might want to lay low for a while, Rob, right? So are you figuring she should have canceled this PragerU appearance? She should have canceled the Florida trip?
That's my inclination at this point. I think, given the way things turned this week and how she's sort of allowed the Liberals to frame it this way, that she's really trying to help the Conservatives, not necessarily help Canada. I don't think it's helpful to just keep shining a spotlight on that. Now, I'm still willing to give some benefit of the doubt here in terms of how this all goes and what she has to say tonight. I'm not sure if Danielle Smith is necessarily the best to articulate some of the issues around the auto tariffs more specifically. I think she's been much more focused on the oil and gas sector. But yeah, I do still think there's some value. And we've seen the federal government is running ads in various U.S. states arguing against the tariffs. So the idea that Canadian voices are trying to make the case against the tariffs isn't inherently a bad thing. But I think Danielle Smith has allowed this narrative to get a little twisted. And so part of it may depend on how this all goes. I mean, keep in mind, Ben Shapiro is already somebody who's criticized the tariffs. So it's not like he's got an inside track into Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump has pretty much dismissed any conservative who isn't, towing the line and kissing the ring. So yeah, I think we've already convinced Ben Shapiro. I don't know if it's going to help a whole lot, but we'll see how this goes.
Taking a look at the Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power. Get exclusive deals on internet, electricity, and natural gas at parkpower.ca/realtalk. Ken K says Doug Ford's on Canada's side. Danielle Smith is MAGA first, oil and gas second. Canada's not even on the list. I know she'd push back on that if you said that to her face, but we'll take Ken's point. Glenna says Doug's fighting for Canada. Danielle Smith is fighting for colluding with the U.S. Dustin, watching us live on Facebook, says, how can you not say that she's acting like a traitor? She's acting like a foreign agent. Why? Says Dustin, she's been a separatist from day one. What do you think about all this, Rob? This has kind of been flaring up, mostly in like comment sections, and we've seen some comments on our YouTube episodes. People said, one audience member summed it up quite concisely, said, if Carney's in, Alberta's out. What do you make of talk like this, the flare-up of Alberta sovereignty sentiments?
Well, and that's the risky game she's playing here. I mean, it's useful to the UCP to get people whipped up and frustrated with liberal Ottawa, and that translates into vote for us, and we'll fight them, and we'll throw the Sovereignty Act and court challenges and all of this, and so you need us as that guard. But if that kind of spirals out of control and it becomes a question of Alberta's place in Canada, that's a much more dangerous game. And so I do think people are making the connection here that, all of a sudden there's this groundswell of Canadian patriotism. We're on Team Canada. We're fighting for our sovereignty. And along comes Alberta's premier and is kind of musing about, maybe we'll have a referendum of some kind if we don't get our way, or maybe there'll be a national unity crisis if we don't get our way. So I think people are connecting the dots there. And I mean, that leads to that kind of sentiment. And again, I think that's why this is in the middle of a federal election campaign becomes so problematic for the federal Conservative.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just want to pick your brain, like as an Albertan. Like, yeah, you're a media commentator, Rob. You've had your finger on the pulse of politics for like 30 years. I'm not trying to age us, by the way. Maybe it's been like 25. But the point is, and anybody in Western Canada knows when a premier, in particular, a Conservative premier, in particular from the prairies, says something like this could prompt a national unity crisis. It has a bit of a ransom note vibe to it. Now, I've lived here forever, born and raised Alberta kid. I turned my garage into a bar and there's a big Alberta flag hanging in there. I don't need to be convinced about my love for Alberta, but talk about separating from Canada really turns me off. And a politician that would really start to threaten that or hang that in front of people or theme their policy around that would lose my support. What do you think the average Albertan would feel about it?
Yeah, I think there's always that sort of core of, we've seen it as high as maybe 30% in some cases, but, say around 20-ish% who might be sympathetic to the idea of Alberta separating. And where do you think that 20% falls, right? So it's entirely within the UCP base, or at least on the right. I mean, the whole idea of Western separatism is really politically driven. The idea that it's a conservative enterprise and would all be about conservative policies and erasing Canadian leftness or wokeness or whatever it is. So it very much falls on the right. And so I think that's a bit of a problem, from the conservative perspective, is what's going on in Alberta? What's this sentiment here? And is it something that we should be concerned about? Now, I think Danielle Smith would, or the UCP might argue that, well, if we get a more sensible approach from Ottawa, then maybe there's no problem, right? And I think there is something to that. Like, there's a lot of legitimate frustrations that Albertans have. And I think there's a hope, as much as Danielle Smith wants to suggest that Mark Carney is worse than Justin Trudeau, that if we do get another Liberal government, maybe we'll get a more moderate or a different kind of approach on all of these things. So time will tell, and that remains to be seen. But look, I mean, it's worth noting that if the Conservatives win, like, all of this immediately goes away, regardless of what the Conservatives do or don't do, or meet any of Danielle Smith's demands or any of that. So it is all politically driven in a sense, right? And you think about when Stephen Harper was prime minister, we went from Ed Stelmach to Alison Redford to Rachel Notley. Like, politics in Alberta really shifts considerably when there's a Conservative in Ottawa. And I think that's something the UCP here really is concerned about.
Yeah, that's a solid point. We're talking to Rob Breakenridge. Rob, hang tight. When we come back from this quick break, I want to put Donald Trump's comments in front of you. Like you said, taking aim at the auto sector today. We'll find out how that's landing in Canada. We heard from Pierre Poilievre in Hamilton yesterday. If you caught that, we checked in with Nick Taylor-Vasey. This is part of our partnership through the election campaign with Politico. Nick was at that Conservative rally in Hamilton. Pierre Poilievre talking about steel, obviously, but not a lot about Donald Trump. Mark Carney was there as well in Ontario, talking steel. We'll bring you some of his comments in just a quick moment on the Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power. DSP says Premier Smith is unfit for office, says allegations of corruption, siding against Canada, spending public money on travel to deplorable fundraisers. She needs to resign. That from DSP. Horse Lake Ranch says, yeah, everybody, but how is all this working out for Doug Ford? The guy's basically in witness protection right now. That from Horse Lake Ranch. Erica, watching us live on YouTube, says, yeah, Smith definitely stepped in it a few times as of late, but realistically, how many true undecided voters out there are going to be swayed federally by anything that the Premier of Alberta says? Probably not many. That from Erica. Let us know what you think. If you're watching us live, if you're listening live on the Mixlr live streaming audio app, you can, of course, leave a comment there. You can leave a comment on our YouTube episode or send us an email to talk@ryanjespersen.com. Our live chat, of course, powered by Park Power. And they want to put something on your radar right now. You know, a lot of you are getting a very rude awakening with your most recent utility bills. Unbelievable. Albertans are just shelling out for internet, electricity, and natural gas more than they have in past. It's a perfect time to go check out parkpower.ca/Real Talk. Park Power offers electricity, natural gas, and internet across Alberta with low rates, awesome service, and they share their profits with Alberta charities, which we really love. They're currently offering the lowest fixed electricity rate in the province, period. That's 6.69 cents per kilowatt hour. Why would you pay more? It's a great time to shop around for rates, and if you are going to bring your business over to Park Power, number one, their team will do it for you. You don't have to call your old provider and have that breakup call. Park Power will do it. It's smooth and seamless. And when you're signing up, and especially bundling services, there's promo codes, exclusive Real Talk promo codes that could save you up to $150 right off the bat. Again, you can check out all the details at parkpower.ca/Real Talk. Hey, today is a perfect day to pick up your tickets for the Full House Lottery. Every ticket supporting the University of Alberta and the Royal Alexandra Hospitals. It's time to dream big and win even bigger with the Full House Lottery with 3 grand prizes. They've got dream vacations for life. They've got a dream tiny home plus 31 winners in the huge early bird car a day giveaway in May. They're giving a car away every single day. The Full House Lottery has it all. Plus, there's even more chances to win with the 50-50 Extra. The current jackpot already over $1.1 million, a life-changing prize you don't want to miss out on. Plus, the big Summer Bucks calendar. You can learn more about it. You can check out all of these fantastic prizes. Let's update this to the minute. The 50-50, $1.16 million already with the winner taking half. You can get your tickets today at fullhouse.ca. California Closets reminding you they are and have always been proudly Canadian-owned and operated. When you go to californiaclosets.ca and book a consultation with their team of designers, you're going to be talking to Albertans. You're going to be talking about top shelf materials and installations that are all manufactured on Canadian soil and installed by Albertans. Nobody does custom closets and storage solutions quite like California Closets. They can work with any space and any budget, and all their work is guaranteed for life. Your journey starts today when you request that free consultation online at californiaclosets.ca. Well, it's had kind of an on-again, off-again vibe when we're talking about this tariff standoff, this trade war, if you want to call it that, with the United States. President Donald Trump threatening the tariffs, pressing pause, hovering them over certain industries, and that includes the auto sector, where everybody in Ontario and across the country is paying attention, following this statement just hours ago from the President of the United States.
A lot of things that they've been taking over the years. They've taken so much out of our country, friend and foe, and frankly, friend has been oftentimes much worse than foe. And this is very modest. What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. We started off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at, and we go to 25%. And basically, as you know, and as you've been seeing, not reporting as accurately as it should be reported because it's a massive story. Business is coming back to the United States so that they don't have to pay tariffs. And I think also because of November 5th, the election, they're very happy. AI is coming back to levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's a new, sort of a new business, I guess, when you think about it. But it's plants are going up all over the United States, and many of them have already been started.
So that's the president who wants to bring, obviously, all auto manufacturing back to the United States. How bad is this really, Rob, for Canada? Or is this something that diplomats can get handled in a few weeks?
I don't know. I think it's pretty bad. I mean, it's not good for the United States either. I saw an interesting stat today that, peak U.S. automotive output was 2023 and 2024. The U.S. auto sector has been doing very well. This just injects a whole lot of chaos and uncertainty. So I don't think there's a lot of excitement about this in the U.S. I mean, we've seen how the stock markets responded to Trump tariffs, all of the economic uncertainty this has created. I mean, Ford and GM, their stock was plunging yesterday. So I know Trump would, or his defenders would argue that, there's going to be some period of all of this, but it's all going to be great on the other side. I mean, I'm not so sure. But for Canada, this is really bad, right? Because this is long-term, this is permanent, is what Donald Trump is talking about. This isn't some tactic to pressure us on the border or fentanyl or something. I mean, it was clearly never about any of that stuff. So this is the new reality. And remember, we're only a couple months into his presidency. So, it underscores the challenge we're facing. It's funny because, for the first week or so of the campaign, it was almost kind of sleepy, kind of boring, and just sort of typical Canadian political party promises. We almost forgot for a few days about this huge threat. And here's Donald Trump once again to remind us of, oh yeah, this has changed everything. And we still got more to come, presumably on April 2nd. So from a Canadian perspective, I think there's a lot of concern.
I want to play this from Mark Carney, and then we'll get your assessment of how he and Pierre Poilievre have been addressing this through the early stages of this campaign. Mark Carney asked about all of this dust-up with the United States, economic uncertainty, and, of course, his plan should he form the next government. Here he is.
This will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger. I think what's happened, and this was part of our discussion, over the course of the last several months, Canadians as a whole across this country, have gotten over the shock of the betrayal and are learning lessons. We have to look out for ourselves, and we have to look out for each other.
Number one, the word betrayal. I'm not saying it doesn't fit, but that's a big one. When you invoke it personally, when you invoke it internationally, it's not an accidental word.
Well, I mean, it kind of pales in comparison to the sort of rhetoric Donald Trump has been using, but I guess that's to be expected. But yeah, I think that's probably how a lot of Canadians are feeling about all of this. We dealt with Donald Trump once before. We went through all the angst of trying to hammer out a new NAFTA agreement. And I think maybe a lot of us naively believe that, okay, that's been dealt with. Donald Trump seemed really happy with that trade agreement. So sure, Donald Trump 2.0 is going to be a little more chaotic, but maybe it's something we as Canadians can kind of ignore. And I think that's maybe why there's so much shock, is that we weren't really expecting this. And, for it to come up this way and the way it's been framed and just how aggressive it's been and how damaging this all can be, Yeah, I mean, it's totally turned politics on its head in this country for sure. And I think there's a lot of reason to worry about the impact it's going to have on jobs and the economy.
Before taking off for Florida, Alberta's premier chimed in on all of this, as she has done, and she took aim right at Mark Carney, but not just him, the Liberals, the NDP, and basically everybody except herself. Here's Danielle Smith.
And I am now off to the U.S. yet again to try and speak to Americans, this time through the second largest podcaster in the world, whose audience is made up of exactly the people we need to persuade to convince their president to change course on tariffs against Canada. And what does Team Carney want me to do? They want me to abandon my post, remain in Alberta, and do absolutely nothing to defend our province. They want me to cower in the face of Eastern media pundits and politicians who favor political grandstanding to effective diplomacy. I'm fiercely criticized for going into the lion's den to change the hearts and minds of the very Americans that we need on Canada's side to avoid a trade war with the most powerful economy on earth. They want this lady and Alberta to just sit down and shut up. Well, here is my response to that. I will not be silent. Alberta will not be silent. We will not be pushed around and called traitors for merely having the courage to actually do something about our nation's and province's predicament other than merely indulging in self-righteous tantrums. And I, for one, will never be silenced by the party in Ottawa that has sold out our beloved province for the last 10 years with the help of their NDP collaborators.
So, I mean, this is bigger than just Trump. This is bigger than just tariffs. As she references the last 10 years, this is about, in her perspective and in the perspective of, I'm sure, many Albertans, the fact that Alberta's kind of had to fight for its own right since inception.
And that's very much in keeping with Danielle Smith's brand, right? Is that she's standing up for Ottawa, and she's going to do it more fiercely than anyone has ever done it. I mean, part of her rationale in running for leadership was that, maybe Jason Kenney was too soft on Ottawa, despite the Fair Deal panel and the equalization referendum and all of that. So yes, look, there's a lot of politics going on here, certainly from the federal political parties, but also from Danielle Smith, right? To frame it this way, that she's standing up for Alberta and she's being attacked for doing so. Again, I think, as we talked about earlier, she's sort of ignoring what the actual criticism is. And she hasn't really explained what she meant when she said, in her own words, it's kind of like that time where she said, I talk to prosecutors all the time. And then, that somehow it was unfair to say that she was talking to prosecutors about cases, right? The same thing here. She said in her own words, yes, I asked the administration to put all of this on pause during the election because it's helping the Liberals. So what did she mean by that? And at no point during her speech yesterday did she address that. And I think that's the one big thing that everyone's kind of upset about or criticizing her for. So it's convenient to say everyone's attacking me, but it's for these self-serving reasons and not the actual reason.
Yeah, I think also, like, if we're being real about it, what she said to Breitbart actually probably is true. No, it actually definitely is true in the sense of if you're looking at whose perspective. What she said, I think her exact words were, what you'll find is that Poilievre's perspective aligns more closely with the new direction of America. That's 100% true, what she said. But the Poilievre camp and a big part of their campaign strategy is to convince Canadians out of necessity that he is not, quote, Timbit Trump, that he's not mini Trump, that he's not going to fold over, like a cheap tent when it comes to trade negotiations. So to a certain degree, like when you look at, and again, you got to be careful when you're painting millions of people with one brush, but if you looked within Poilievre's most ardent supporters, you would probably find a decent number of folks who would be sympathetic to or supportive of Donald Trump. I'm not saying everybody, but way more within the Conservative Party than with the Liberal Party. So it's like Danielle Smith's not entirely wrong in what she's saying. It's just inconvenient for the federal Conservatives right now. Do we agree on that?
Totally. Look, I think, Mark Carney of the Liberals would love this election to be all about Donald Trump. I think Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives still want to make it about Justin Trudeau in the last 9 years. And I think it's fair to introduce both into this campaign. But that's a big factor. Remember that, Trump made that comment recently where he said, I don't really care who wins the next election. This Poilievre guy hasn't said nice things about me. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe it'd be better if a Liberal won. And I think the Conservatives sort of said, oh, thank you. It was a bit of a gift to them. And it's like, see, we're not aligned with Donald Trump. And then along comes Danielle Smith. and says, oh, no, totally. The Conservatives are aligned with Donald Trump. So, at the same time, they got a little bit of relief from that allegation. Along comes Alberta's premier to bring it back front and center. But again, I think in Danielle Smith's mind, if I'm being charitable, it's just about what's the best way of getting Conservatives or Republicans to be sympathetic to our cause. And sort of just looking at it through a political lens, if we can convince them that there's Conservatives in Canada, maybe you guys will get along better with them. So let's try to conservative figure all of this out. Maybe in her mind, that's kind of how it came across. But, to a lot of Canadians, it came across as something much more sinister.
We're hanging out with Rob Breakenridge. You can read his newest feature at readtheline.ca. Danielle Smith might want to lay low for a while, writes Rob. On our Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power, Rob, who's watching us live on Facebook right now, says Danielle Smith needs to get off that cross. We need the wood for housing. Propter says she wants us to stay in Alberta. Her post is in Alberta. Brian's got a different take on it. Brian, watching on Facebook, says Danielle Smith is fighting for Alberta. She's been fighting Trudeau, Carney, the Carney Carnival, he calls it, and doing a great job letting Ottawa know that Alberta's had enough of being kicked in the ribs. She's been traveling to the States to meet with officials to try to help resolve issues. The public should be more concerned about Mark Carney keeping Parliament shut down and his ignorance, not reaching out to American officials, instead traveling to Europe for a retreat. He's as bad of an outlaw as Trudeau was. Danielle Smith, keep up the excellent work, says Brian, protecting Alberta from gangsters like Mark Carney. What did you read into Carney making after swearing in as Prime Minister, making his first mission, his first trip, his first diplomatic visit to Europe? Did it make sense to you?
Not really to me. I think just a way of trying to frame him and show him off a bit as Prime Minister before plunging into an election, right? So we had a week or so of this whole weird, he's kind of campaigning, he's kind of governing, he's sort of doing neither, but also both at the same time. So yeah, a decision needed to be made. Either let's get back to work, establish a mandate in Parliament or the confidence of Parliament, or go and get a mandate from Conservatives. And so that was probably the better way to go, especially since Mark Carney is not a member of Parliament. So yeah, an election made sense, and Conservatives have been calling for an election for a very long time. So it's a little odd, I think, for those who were calling for an election and then say, whoa, what does Mark Carney do in calling an election? I mean, that might be a small number of Canadians. But yeah, look, I think, there's a need for an election, a need to establish a mandate here, and Canadians are going to have a say.
I just want to touch on something in your piece about federal political aspirations. But before we do, I've got to ask you about Alberta's opposition. I won't say Naheed Nenshi's been invisible, but probably as close to invisible as you can get without actually being invisible. He obviously stepped in front of cameras to comment on the Premier's Breitbart interview. I'll hand it over to Rob right after we have a listen.
The Premier plays fast and loose with Canada. This goes beyond the Premier's usual incompetence. This is antithetical to democracy. In her own words, caught on tape, she urged government officials in a foreign country to take a certain action in order to influence the results of a Canadian election. That at a moment when our nation is under attack, at a moment where the President of the United States says we're not a real country, where he threatens the sovereignty of our nation, Danielle Smith goes out in public wanting to be the center of attention, telling everybody, oh no, we want to cause a national unity crisis. I'm old enough to know just how fragile this beautiful nation that we built together. And I'm old enough to know that we built the most special country on earth here in Canada. And I'll be damned if I allow a careless, incompetent Premier to play with that.
That's Naheed Nenshi. What's your assessment of how Alberta's official opposition has been performing or capitalizing on this or providing an alternative to what we're seeing from the UCP?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge for him, hasn't it? I think, and he's identified a seat now where he's going to run in Edmonton, Rachel Notley's old riding. So it's interesting that the UCP has been holding off on calling that by-election, maybe to help deny, at least for now, some profile for Naheed Nenshi. So, yeah, look, I think once he gets a seat, once he gets in the legislature and, is squaring off with the Premier in question period, I think that'll help. So in this sense, yeah, I think he's doing his job as opposition leader and highlighting some of the concerns about Danielle Smith's approach. But I don't know that there's much more he could be doing at this point.
Yeah, fair enough. Waiting on that by-election in Edmonton, Strathcona. It's kind of, you've been a Calgary guy. I'm a born and raised Calgary kid. It's going to be weird for me to wrap my mind around Naheed Nenshi representing an Edmonton riding. I would suspect only until the next provincial election, but still, I know they got to get him into the legislature.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Danielle Smith was maybe similarly opportunistic in selecting the riding she did in Brooks Medicine Hat, where she doesn't live, as opposed to Calgary Elbow, which is at least closer to her Calgary roots. So she picked that seat and she won, and fair enough. Okay, she's the MLA there, and she's got to figure out how she can best represent that community. And I think the same will be true of Naheed Nenshi. It's opportunistic to pick a pretty safe seat. And so he's going to have to demonstrate to people in Edmonton, Strathcona that he can represent them, that he understands their concerns and their riding. And, we saw Mark Carney slip up a bit the other day. He doesn't really know the boundaries or the parameters of the Ottawa riding he's running. So, Naheed Nenshi could take some lessons from that. But in the end, I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
On the live chat, 80s Fanify. I love this audience, Rob. They're across the political spectrum. Music to my ears. 80s Fanify says, preach, Nenshi. Very next comment, Blasheep says, God bless Danielle Smith. Ottawa's never been Alberta's friend. Ms. Katie says, Jespersen, come on. Nenshi's been on social media every day, not exactly invisible. Danielle Smith is preventing him from being in the legislature. That from Ms. KD. Rob, before we thank you for your time, let me ask you about like this assertion you slip into your piece at readtheline.ca. We're talking to Rob Breakenridge. His piece is just out. Make sure you check it out. And make sure you subscribe to support this independent journalism. You note that you don't believe that Danielle Smith has federal political aspirations. Like, you say it with confidence. You put a period at the end. What makes you so certain?
Well, I think, you just look at the way that, her whole political brand is about Alberta, standing up for Alberta. And, just that alone would be difficult to transition to the federal level. I think you see, once those issues are off the table, the struggles Danielle Smith has had domestically around bread and butter issues like healthcare or things like auto insurance, all of these things. It's hard to see her as a national political figure once you take out that whole Alberta agenda from her political brand. But I think at the same time, she does aspire to some national profile. Maybe similar in some ways. She's expressed a lot of admiration for Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis, and Kristi Noem is now in Donald Trump's cabinet, and DeSantis did run for president. This whole idea that they're establishing a brand. Look at how they're leading their province or their state, and how people elsewhere would say, "Boy, I wish I had a premier or a governor like that." I think there's kind of that element to her approach to be a national political figure without necessarily having national political aspirations. And so we've seen this before. I mean, her sharing a stage with Tucker Carlson and her doing interviews with other, Jordan Peterson and other prominent U.S. conservatives. I think that's, having street cred with them is helping to burnish her brand here, where conservatives, not just in Alberta, but across the country, they admire her, or they say, wow, I wish, more conservatives were like that. So I do think it's about establishing some national profile, but what she chooses to do with that in the long run, I guess, remains to be seen.
You can read Rob's feature in The Line. Again, that's at readtheline.ca. That's where you can read and subscribe, buddy. I've always enjoyed our chats. Thanks for making time for us today. We'll connect again soon.
I hope so. Thanks, Ryan.
You got it. That's longtime Alberta-based pundit, broadcaster, and journalist Rob Breakenridge. I see Jillian, by the way, she sorted out the time change. Jillian let us know yesterday in the chat, powered by Park Power. She was tuning into Real Talk while on vacation with her family in Hawaii. That is next level. We're going to have to get some, we got those Real
going
Talk.
Down south, they're not terrible.
Yeah. Does Hawaii count?
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of folks, some friends of ours just went to, they're in Disney World as we speak. Mm-hmm. And I was joking with him before he left. I said, are you guys going to be posting photos while you're down there? He's like, I'm not sure. I'm not certain. And then yesterday, their Instagram just whoomp, like 20 photos of the happiest place on earth in the United States anyway. But Jillian says, I wish conservatives would criticize Trump with the same anger and passion they had when Justin Trudeau took his daughter to the Taylor Swift concert. Where's that energy for the man now threatening to annex the United States? That's from Jillian, who wants to see more from Canadian conservatives. Do you think that there was any chance at all whatsoever, even including and considering pressure from Pierre Poilievre. Allegedly, the Poilievre War Room reached out to Alberta's Premier's office. I want to ask her about this, asking her to kind of back off, asking her to cut out those interviews. Think there's any chance she was going to cancel her trip down to Florida?
No, I don't think so. It's it's like I said yesterday on the show, and I'll just reiterate. It's solidifying. Like I said, I don't think it's drawing any new people in, but it's solidifying. It's a little carrot for her base, a little snack. But I do think it's strange, that she says, "I'm going down into the lion's den down in Florida to advocate for Alberta," but you can't go to, how do I compare it? The sloth's den, where everyone's calm and friendly in Ottawa when all the premiers meet. That just kind of doesn't make sense to me.
I guess it's like, different priorities and different theories on what the most effective advocacy is. Like she says it when she says, "I'm going to go down to be with the second biggest podcaster in the world." I mean, she tips her cap, shows her hand a little bit. I see a lot of people, by the way, chiming in saying, Midas Touch is number 2. Here's how podcast rankings work, everybody. They change and they adjust week to week based on big episodes. But the biggest podcast in the world by a mile is Joe Rogan, number 1, no matter what.
Well,
even if he does, it's 100%. Spotify releases the numbers by subscriptions. Nobody's even close to Joe. Joe Rogan triples the second biggest podcast on Spotify. Triples.
Yeah, but he got beat a few weeks ago.
Exactly. A few weeks ago. So for 1 week, right? So is Connor McDavid the best hockey player in the world like every single week? Maybe not, but he's the best hockey player in the world. My point is just to say, number 1, Ben Shapiro's not the second biggest podcaster in the world, but he's easily one of the most prominent U.S. conservative voices. There's no doubt about that. And so the Premier kind of, I think, shows her hand a little bit. Like she's enamored with the idea of appearing on all these massive podcasts and shows. And who wouldn't be, right? Like when Danielle Smith appears with Jordan Peterson, the numbers that interview does are going to absolutely crush numbers. I've got no problem saying the obvious than if she comes here on Real Talk or any Canadian podcast for that matter, right? She can go with our pal David Hurley, the Hurley Burley, or she could appear with any of our friends that are doing podcasts, on the West Coast or wherever. No Canadian podcast can touch those numbers. That's a fact. But the question is, and it seems to be an obvious one, like when you're there in front of that audience, what's the message you're carrying, right? And if the message that you're carrying is pause all the talk on tariffs now because it's becoming inconvenient for Canadian conservatives, not get rid of them, not fight for Alberta, not let's exempt oil and gas, or not let's be reasonable, or not let's look at the long-term trading relationship, but pause the tariffs for a little bit because it's really hurting Pierre Poilievre. That's not what people want to see from their premier. And that includes conservatives. Like if you're a big UCP supporter, she's not down there doing what she's saying that she's doing, which I think is why people are so pissed off. Rob Breakenridge is not a left-winger. Like for anybody that's unfamiliar with Rob Breakenridge, he's a conservative commentator for sure. Rob and I both worked with Danielle Smith on Chorus Radio for years. He knows her well, and I think that's why this is significant. For him to put in a headline, she's got to lay low for a while. This is not some lunatic writing for the Tyee. This is not a far-left journalist or some sort of podcaster checking in from Vancouver Island chained to an old-growth forest. Like, that's not who this is, and that's not the source. Let us know what you think. Talk at RyanJespersen.com. Does it actually, we saw that comment earlier in the chat, does it actually hurt Pierre Poilievre? Well, who knows? I guess we'll see in about a month from now on the 28th of April. Speaking of our election coverage, in case you missed it, we talked to Nick Taylor-Vasey. Real Talk is partnering with Politico through this campaign. It means that every Wednesday over the next month, we're going to hear from one of their journalists who is somewhere in Canada. They're covering the entire country, of course, through the month of April, all the way up to the 28th. So Nick joins us just hours after he was at a conservative rally in Steeltown in Hamilton, Ontario, where he heard from Pierre Poilievre. And Nick gave us a really interesting insight. If you didn't catch it yet, we want to refer you to the full episode. That's our March 26th episode. Some of the language Pierre Poilievre using in front of a blue-collar crowd gives you a bit of a sense of what his strategy is going to be to reach that wide swath of voters. Here he is.
I have to give Mr. Carney credit. He's been honest. He wants an industrial carbon tax. And he was asked, who would pay it? And he said, well, don't worry. Canadians don't have to pay it because it will go on things like steel. And nobody uses steel anymore, he said. Has he been to Hamilton lately? Imagine how little you have to know about the economy to think that we can have a modern economic civilization without steel. Steel is literally the bones of a modern economy. You tax steel, you tax everything.
When you're talking about steel, how are you not talking about Donald Trump? He's not taking aim at the American president like you think he might.
No, he named him a few times last night, but only in reference to the basic context. He's not going after the president. Like Mark Carney, the Liberal leader, and Justin Trudeau before him took direct aim at the president, like using quite harsh rhetoric. And today, Mark Carney is in Windsor. The backdrop for his announcement was the Ambassador Bridge that connects to the other side and to Detroit. And it's a balance that Poilievre has to strike, because he knows, just like we know, that there is a significant chunk of his base who doesn't mind MAGA, doesn't mind Donald Trump. And so he doesn't want to slam him too much. But he does want to connect Trump to the tariffs, to the jobs, because he knows, again, Poilievre knows just like we do, that that's the ballot issue right now. People are concerned about affordability. They're concerned about crime. They're concerned about all these things. But more than anything, they're concerned about just having somebody to help them stay employed, right? And give them a hand if they lose their jobs.
That's Nick Taylor-Vasey, who joined us live on our most recent episode of Real Talk. You can catch Politico every Wednesday through the campaign on the show, and every Thursday in their Ottawa playbook. You can just check out Politico.com and look for Canada, and then Ottawa playbook. You'll be able to read my view from Alberta. It's just gone live, the first week's edition right now. Where we warn folks from across the country and watching internationally, don't lose interest in Alberta just yet. I write, sure, we've got a history of sending a swath of Conservative MPs to Ottawa every election, but that doesn't mean that this one's a foregone conclusion. I say, in fact, our bullish prairie province could hold some of the closest ridings in the country this time around. I go on to write about Danielle Smith's stop the criticism that she's facing following this Breitbart interview. And then I shine a light on the Edmonton Centre riding, not just because I live there, but because I think it's one of the stories that we're going to want to watch, as Randy Boissonneau at the 11th hour withdrew his candidacy. It's a wide open riding. Again, that's my view from Alberta every Thursday at Politico.com in their Ottawa playbook. We'll put the link to subscribe in the show notes on the YouTube and on podcast, and I'm going to punch it into the live chat for those of you that are watching right now. John, for those that are watching us on YouTube, we recognize a lot of people join us on LinkedIn. They'll join us on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Mixlr. But YouTube, obviously, is kind of Grand Central Station. For those that want to tune in, check out our highlights, check out our shorts. And we're excited that we're rolling out a new opportunity for people to get even more plugged into the Real Talk community.
Oh, it's a big day. We just keep adding more work.
It's a lot of fun. I'm excited.
No, I'm just kidding.
More work.
No, it's awesome. And yesterday we had a big day of work, but at the end it was great. We were super happy. So introducing today, now live. We haven't posted or published, but we'll be doing like some sort of video explaining it. But here it is. Memberships on YouTube. Ooh,
yeah, this is pretty cool stuff. So there's 3 levels of membership. Obviously, listen to everybody. The show is always going to be free. The show will always be free. You can always watch on YouTube everything. For the most part, everything on YouTube. There's a small change coming up, but you'll always be able to watch our full episodes, our shorts, and our highlights. Plus, the podcast will always be free. Mark my words, always free. But if you want to find a way to support the show, to have some cool little extras, and basically to like we said, form a new YouTube community, there's 3 levels. It's $5, $15, and $150 a month. For $5 a month, you're a Real Talker. You'll get loyalty badges. You get special emojis you can use in the chat, and you'll have a priority reply to comments. The Real Deal level at $15 a month is members-only videos, members-only live chats, which I think is going to be a really cool angle and opportunity for some folks. We'll have members-only live streams, and you'll also receive a Real Talk sticker pack in the mail. And for those of you that are looking at the Real VIP level, this is $150 a month. We recognize that's a significant commitment, but We wouldn't have it here if some of you had not been asking for a way to show your support of the show. This is involving the Real VIP level, an annual Real Talk VIP meetup, which we're really looking forward to. We have some ideas on what that's going to look like. Plus, exclusive Real Talk merch, not a deal on the merch. You will receive the merch. It's included. This is exclusive merch that's not available on our website, and your name will be displayed on screen during every single show. So you can sign up for these YouTube memberships should you feel so inclined. And thanks to everybody that's been asking us when we were going to roll these out.
And just so you're looking at these, like if you go to a level up, you get the level before all that stuff as well. And the first level also doesn't show something people were talking about. Like instead of doing all caps when you want to make a point, you can highlight your comment. You can color it red or yellow, show that you're angry, show some emotion. We're also going to have like some special like custom emojis and stuff like that we're working on, especially for Real Talk. But the one I'm excited about most of all is seeing who's going to be the big real VIP supporters, because I do want to hang out with those people. I want to meet them. I want to know what exactly they like about the show, what we can do better, and to go out with them for whether it's, we don't know what it's going to be yet, but whether it's coffee or dinner or drinks or post-Oiler game festivities.
Let's stop revealing all of our ideas.
But I can't wait to meet these people face to face and be like, what are we doing that you love, and what do you want more of, or what do we have that you just you see on another show and you think we need to have it, kind of thing.
Okay, so we knew that some folks are going to push back. That's fine. So the Krabby Chris is like, I'm already threatening to leave forever. We're not pulling away your live chat, guys. Thanks to our friends at Park Power, the live chat is covered, but there will be a members-only live chat. I know that some of you go on. Guys, there's a lot of thought that's gone into this. A lot of you were talking about you're blocking all these people. You can't stand these people, so we've taken 2 steps. Number 1, on our live chat, again, this will always be free. Real Talk, you will never have to pay for Real Talk ever. And there will always be that live chat thanks to our friends at Park Power. But there will be a separate members-only live chat. So we're doing what we can to get rid of the spam. You've seen it all. You've seen the bots in our chat before trying to redirect you to porn and all that kind of, right? We see that, trying to convert people to their favorite religion.
Sometimes I click just because I'm...
Johnny clicks just because it's too good to be true.
What is this?
2 girls, what?
This?
So what we've done is, number 1, you got to subscribe to our channel for free.
Boom!
To participate in the live chat. Do we
our
have one?
First new member,
Justin Evans has become
guy.
a Real Talker. Congratulations, Justin, and welcome. Krista says, watching on Facebook, says the extra options are excellent. That's what this is, guys.
That's all
this
it is.
Just some
it's
fun.
Extras.
You'll always have the live chat. The
Nothing
live chat will never
changing.
cost you anything. The members-only live chat, if you want to participate, you can get in on that. And if you want to become a real VIP, some of you asked for it. Some of you have been like, honestly, we appreciate that so much. This is our living. This is how we feed our families. And if you want us to be able to level up the show, some of you have been saying, what's a way that we can show our support? So we're rolling out the YouTube memberships. You can check out more on our official Real Talk YouTube channel.
And this is something people asked us for. We've gotten emails about it, and it's extras. And one thing, we're trying to like eliminate some things we don't like. Like A, like you were talking about spam. B, people, when they want to make a point, they just put all caps, but they keep talking in caps after that. Maybe they forget to hit the button, Ryan, but like now you can highlight a comment when you want people to see it or whatever. And some of those members only stuff is going to be cool. Like some of the videos, we were even talking yesterday, like maybe we'll show some bloopers and stuff from like pre-recorded interviews, or Ryan when he does his intros. Some of those get so funny because 99 out of 100 he hits it first try, but some of them on some days when we're a quart low or whatever, maybe we'll just throw some of that out there to show people. I
gotta be more careful now that because this fucking guy.
But you're a professional. You hit him most of the
like
time.
Johnny, and you guys know this. It's like when people always write in talking about Johnny, and they're like, when you get excited, when he gets an idea, and his eyes light up, he gets an idea. So now I know this guy. He's gonna be creating folders and files, and he's gonna be saving. He's gonna be saving all my Ken K, another member at the Real Deal level. Ken, we sure appreciate you. This is not going to turn into an altar call. This is not going to turn into us passing the plate around. But we just wanted to give all of you a chance. If you want to support the show, this is 100% optional, and we sure appreciate it. And then the critics are hilarious. One says, I pay for enough podcasts already. Okay, so make it clear. So you just don't want to pay for our podcast. Thank you.
Which,
Thank you
by the way, I mean, look at most podcasts. Look at, you're talking about the number one show in the world, Joe Rogan. I mean, he does a show whatever he wants, and it's maybe once a week. Like, we're not saying you have to do anything, but we come in here every day. This is a full-time job for us. Sometimes we're here on the weekend. We're giving you free content every single day at the same time.
And that's cool if you never pay for a cent of it. We don't care.
No,
it's
not at
totally
all.
fine.
We're not saying you have to at all.
Yeah, it's just extra options. So thanks to everybody that signs out. We wanted to give you that option and provide some cool ways for you to engage with the show. Like, this is going to be a fun annual thing. We've got some special benefits for our Patreon supporters. This is specifically for those that are watching and checking this out on YouTube. Sure appreciate Praptor signing up to become a member at the Real Talker level. So this is going to be cool. This is just like a neat way for those of you that want to engage a little bit more in the show. Ambustion just signing up as at the Real Deal level. So this is really neat. And we're gonna figure this out. Yeah. If there's, listen, like when we say we want to hear from you, this is your show, you send us an email. People do, and a lot of folks, like, this is a result of your advocacy. This is a result of people writing in saying, hey, like one person wrote in, this is about a week ago, said to us they've already signed up as a member on another one of their favorite channels. They said, why aren't you guys doing memberships? And you know how it goes. Like, anybody, small business owner, wherever you are, it doesn't matter if you're like a mom and dad staying at home, if you're in the office, chances are, if you're like me, you have a to-do list that's like 6 feet long and you're your way through it. And we started saying to people, yeah, memberships are on our radar. Like, they are. Thank you for your interest. They're on our radar. And then all of a sudden yesterday, we were just like, let's just do this. People are asking for it, so we're going to do it.
Yeah, and so, if you're at a level and you think, hey, I'm not getting my money's worth, tell us, man. We'll add more stuff. We'll send more t-shirts. That's what we love to do. And now you can see, as you're watching the chat in YouTube, our members are now highlighted.
Which is
They've
cool.
got a badge. That badge changes over time the longer you're a member to show that you've been supporting for longer. And as that happens, maybe we'll come up with more ways. But the main thing yesterday was like, how do we say thank you to the people who support us?
Yeah.
And we wanted to give them extra perks, extra benefits, and we wanted them to be inclusive for everyone at some levels, but we also wanted to give some exclusive stuff to people that we know give a little more. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I love this from Scott, who says, I will just keep wearing my Real Talk snapback cap in the hinterland.
That
is how we do it in the underground. Scott, the fact that you're walking around repping our logo means the world to us. And I know that I've already spent too much time reading this individual's comments, but Krabby Chris is back so pissed off that we're giving optional opportunities for people to connect with the show. And Krabby Chris says, I'm just having so much fun with this. I can't imagine being this miserable about something fun. But Krabby Chris says, I don't mind supporting somebody in their basement trying to get ahead, but this is different. So what we're doing is the quality. We've invested too much in making the quality of the show too good. And if we were starving a little bit more or had a bit of a shittier product, then Krabby Chris would support us.
I mean,
we have the option.
We could go back to one camera and take away all the lights, and we'll just, we could do this from the Real Talk. What do you call the spot you hang out at your house?
The cabin.
We could go back to the cabin and just hang out there. It'd be a lot easier.
Actually, maybe one of our real VIP gatherings, maybe our next Patreon gathering will be, maybe it'll be in the cabin. Yeah, we have these empty the bottle parties. Have you guys ever heard of these? Have you ever heard of the empty the bottle party where it goes around the circle and you always got to do it like it's in somebody's house. Otherwise, it's prohibitively expensive. But, you roll dice or find a way, paper, rock, scissors for each person to have it be their turn. And then they go to the bar. They go to the wet bar. And in the cabin, it's a significant one. And then they choose a bottle. It's got to be lower than half. Okay, so the bottle's got to be lower than half. You talk to any Scotch or whiskey lover, they'll tell you that the more air, the more oxygen in the bottle, the quicker that the booze will go bad. So everybody, like, you got all these whiskey collectors that have like an inch left in all these different bottles. That whiskey's going bad. You got to get rid of it. It's not worth saving it. So you have a finish the bottle party. So you go around the circle, and when it's your turn, you pick a bottle that's half or less done, and then you don't move on until that bottle's done. So it's a way to tour the liquor cabinet with everybody. It's a way that it works out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe we'll do like a Real Talk. Remember on Seinfeld when Kramer had the celebrity tour of his life or whatever?
Yes.
We should should do that. Maybe we'll go by the studio.
Tour.
We'll show you the cabin where things started.
The options are endless, everybody. Mariah knows what's up. Mariah Braun, a creator and a really talented communications professional who joins us from Grand Prairie, where she's working, says, come on, people, this shit takes money. It's a business. No shit. Super Chat can becoming a member at the Real Deal level. So there you go, everybody. Anyway, we wanted to mention it. We wanted to put out there. We love you guys, and we want to thank you very much for that. We also wanted to put a couple of other things on your radar. There's the Politico Ottawa playbook, and of course that recurring conversation that we're going to be having with the journalists at Politico every single week. But we're also partnering with journalism outlets, more regional, provincially. Alberta Views is what I'm talking about, and our conversation with Trina Moyles, she's an author and a journalist, on the 19th of March was one of my favorites in a while. Trina has written a piece for Alberta Views on Alberta's management of the grizzly population. And this is a story I know for a fact is flying under the radar because of everything else going on, and we wanted to make sure that was not the case. Just consider this a friendly reminder that while we will be covering the federal election in fulsome fashion from coast to coast to coast, we're also keeping an eye on other stories that are falling out of the news cycle. Before we tell you about something quick with Alberta Views, I wanted to rewind back. This was a week and a day ago, March 19th, the episode where we connected with Trina Moyles.
I emailed, government comms, asking for permission to speak with, ideally Paul Frame, who's one of the province's leading experts, provincial employee on, he's a large carnivore specialist. And the response came, well, you can talk to the minister. And the thing is, I don't want to talk to the minister. I want to talk to someone who's been in the field for the last, 30 years working on these issues in the province. And of course, I spoke, with the minister, and he was gracious to offer me his time for the story. And it's, of course, I want to capture his perspective. But I found that troubling. The fact that biologists are not allowed to speak about these issues is really problematic. And I did speak to an individual off the record anonymously, and they described what's happening right now as a low point. When I lived in Alberta, I had a hunting license. Does that mean that I was qualified to go out and tactically respond to a problem bear? No. Essentially, this is a lottery system. So I asked the minister, I said, how are people being screened? And he said, well, they're already screened when they have a hunting license. The people I've spoken to, it's just not good enough. That's not good enough.
How does this stack up with what other provinces are doing? Are there any provinces or territories in Canada that are doing it the way Alberta's doing it?
No, and this is why this is, it's from some standpoints, this is a bit of an embarrassing program. I wouldn't call it groundbreaking.
So that's Trina Moyles, March 19th on Real Talk. I thought it was a pretty big story that she informed us that she had been denied an interview with the biologist in charge of forming the government's policy on that. And some of you did write into the show saying this is par for the course. Why would any government make their biologists or their scientists available to speak on behalf of the government? But this is a journalist doing a wildlife management story. And I thought, and I was a little bit surprised to hear that interview had just been flat out denied. You can let us know what you think about that interview. Make sure you check it out. That's Trina Moyles on the 19th of March, and you can read her feature in Alberta Views right now. It's the March issue, Problem Grizzly or Problem Politics. I'm showing it to you on my screen right now. If you look in the top right-hand corner, when you go to albertaviews.ca, you see that subscribe link. You can click on that, and then it'll take you directly to the sign-up page where you can punch in that promo code. You're hearing about it exclusively on Real Talk, AVRJ, Alberta Views, Ryan Jespersen. AVRJ is the promo code. It'll knock 50% off a subscription to Alberta Views. It makes it $20 a year, everybody, delivered to your door. We encourage you to support good journalism like what Trina's doing in partnership with the team at Alberta Views. AVRJ at albertaviews.ca. If you don't have April 12th plans, I would love for you to join me at Clear Waters, Clear Futures. This is the Innovative Canadians for Change Gala, the IC Change Gala for 2025. It goes Saturday, April 12th, right here in the capital city. You can learn more at ichange.ca. That's letter I, letter C, change.ca. This organization established 15 years ago right here in Alberta's capital city, dedicated to tackling systemic global challenges through innovation, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. This is a group full of optimists who feel very strongly that Canadians have a duty to help the less fortunate in every possible way we can. And that's why they're tackling global challenges like clean water initiatives in East Africa. 140,000 East African households have benefited from innovative Canadians for Change programs. This gala is going to help fund those programs with these Siramaji filters that provide families with safe water for up to 3 years. They're establishing solar-powered oxygen labs to supply medical-grade oxygen to hospitals and healthcare facilities in low-resource areas in Uganda, Tanzania, the DRC, and Somalia. They're working on other projects like medical records initiatives that's digitizing healthcare records in Nairobi, and so much more. The power of partnerships is at the core of this organization's success. No change happens alone, and that's why we're asking you to join us at the IC Change Gala, April 12th. I'm going to put the sign-up link in the show notes, and we hope to see you there. It's going to be a wonderful evening. Our friends at Kubi Renewable Energy celebrating 10 years in business in 2025, and we're thrilled for them. This company that started with one truck, 2 electricians coming out of the oil field with a vision for Canada's green energy future, and look what they've built. Headquartered in Edmonton and Calgary, offices in Lethbridge and Kamloops, they are installing more solar than anybody else in Western Canada, and they're hiring right now. You can check out the jobs link for Solar by Kubi at kubi.ca. That's also where you can get a free quote. And keep in mind that all the way up until their summer solstice event on the 20th of June, everybody who signs up for a Kubi solar power system and pays their deposit qualifies to win $5,000 off. They're going to draw 2 names on the 20th of June. 2 Kubi customers are going to receive $5,000 back off their solar system. How great is that? You can find out the details at kubi.ca. Friesen Brothers has a super cool event coming up at the beginning of April. It is their first ever Filipino feast at their participating locations. This is a great opportunity on April 5th and 6th at Friesen Brothers Fresh Market stores to check out authentic Filipino dishes cooked by Friesen Brothers Red Seal chefs. This is an all-you-can-eat feast that features famous Filipino dishes like pork adobo, beef caldereta, and more, plus a full salad bar, all for just $25 per person. That's April 5th and 6th from 4 to 8 p.m. at all Friesen Brothers Fresh Market stores. And our friends at North Road Investment Council, wondering when's the last time you evaluated your family's digital risk? They are a steadied voice and a studied hand guiding you through wealth and investing. Life's financial journey doesn't always follow a straight path, and they know that for a lot of folks, digital risk advisory services have been non-existent. As a matter of fact, they're the only firm in Alberta that has a dedicated team member working on digital risk advisory. They're the leaders on digital risk advice, advising their clients on ways to make better and safer choices in digitally connected life. Everybody's connected digitally these days. You can take their digital risk quiz for free today at northroadic.com. That's also the best place to connect with Marshall, Carey, and the team at North Road Investment Council. How about that Marjorie Taylor Greene interview? You see this dust up just yesterday, less than 24 hours ago. The international press, I mean, it's a pretty normal thing to have somebody from, whatever it would be, Times of London or The Guardian or whatever the case may be, in Washington, D.C. Obviously, same deal in Ottawa. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, obviously a big Trump supporter and pretty good at grabbing headlines in her own right, had an interaction with a British journalist yesterday. There's really no point in playing this except for pure entertainment, and also maybe a bit of a wake-up call on where American diplomacy has gone. Now, I acknowledge that Marjorie Taylor Greene is not an American diplomat. She is not the diplomat to the UK, but she is an elected official, and she's certainly got her own rabid fan base. And if she's speaking on behalf of hundreds of thousands or millions of Americans with this take, then this problem's even worse than we thought, and that's saying something. Here's the exchange.
Yep. Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary...
What country are you? Wait, what country are you from?
The UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
Okay,
And you no. You should care about your own borders.
Do you care about American lives being put at risk?
Let me tell you something. Do you care about people from your country? What about all the women that are raped by migrants?
Do you care
No,
about
by migrants. No, do you care? Okay, you're done.
Do you care about American lives being put at risk?
You know what? I don't care.
Service members fighting for your country.
I don't care about
and
your fake news. Do you have a relevant question? This is an American journalist. Thank you.
I'm an American, and I'd like to hear your answer to what she's asked.
I'm not answering her question because I don't care about her network. If you would like to ask, I can answer.
Do you have any concerns whatsoever about the complete disregard of operational security from the top level of this administration?
You want to know about complete disregard about operational security? You should talk about the Biden administration and how they ripped our borders open to terrorist, cartel, child sex trafficking, human trafficking, and drug trafficking across our borders for 4 years. The Trump administration is doing a great job, and I stand by their statements. I stand by their statements. My comment to you is I'm thankful to President Trump that he is leading us out of wars, that he's ending the war in Ukraine, where American lives could have been killed if Joe Biden was still president today, whether he liked it or not. We're talking about NPR and PBS today. We're talking about fake news that was funded with federal funding from American taxpayers. That's what this is about today, not journalists from the UK that should care about
their own. A journalist is being vilified for exposing failings in the way.
And then she walks out, and that is it from the U.S. representative out of the great state of Georgia.
Some spicy stuff going on there, brother.
So the question, like right off the top, is: where are you from? Do you care about where are you from?
You have an accent.
We don't give a crap what
you know what?
have to say.
I'm going to say it right now. God bless MTG. I mean, we need people like this in Parliament, in government, because they just expose like how we potentially need to change how these people get into the buildings, because this is just, I mean, and I get it. There's fiery people on both sides of the aisle down in the States, and they both have their rants that they go on and get emotional, and some of them say, there's some stuff I hear on the Democrat side when they're debating or doing interviews where I'm like, that's a little out there. But MTG never, ever disappoints. I mean, immediately someone has an accent, she tries to shut them down. And then the American reporter's like, okay, I'll ask the question. And then immediately deflects. I mean, I think the biggest story in American politics right now, which is kind of like third or fourth in ranking when it should be number one, is the fact that you have highest levels of government chatting on Signal.
Yes.
Giving exact times and not coordinates, but places.
They were talking about the types of bombs they were going to drop.
Where they are going to bomb other countries. And when they're asked about it, the Secretary of Defense, a former Fox News correspondent, reporter, whatever you want to call it, gets off the plane and tries to deflect and say this reporter is spreading lies and hoaxes. It's not a hoax. That you guys, this is... I thought someone was going to get fired that day. I thought as soon as this guy gets out of this interview, they caught him as he got off the plane.
Not fired.
Even if I'm Trump, I get him in a room. Believe me, I'm sure Trump gave him a hell of a spanking behind closed doors. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Seriously, I'm out here every day with my shield up trying to defend against Canada and Britain and everyone, and you guys are talking like this, typing into your phones when we have rooms in this building and every other government building where you can close the doors. You can go down to the vault in the basement here, the safe room. You can have chats. We've set them up with the government and Secret Service that are totally encrypted. There's no way anyone can hear, and you're typing on your phones about this shit.
Justin, and look at that. Look at that nice blue star next to Justin's name in the Real Talk
Priority
Live
reply
chat.
to comments,
Justin says, I don't want entertainment from my politicians. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a detriment to civil discourse and actual governance happening on Capitol Hill. He says, are you kidding, Johnny? Damn.
I love this comment right here, Jillian. Do you know how fucked we'd be if the Americans had signal before D-Day? It's true. Like, you are, this is, I have no idea how multiple people were fired within the first 24 hours.
I guess it's just like an entirely different, there's a lot of things that just aren't going to make sense over the next 4 years, right? Scarlett says, I don't know, Johnny says, these are the defenders of mediocrity. What a great band name. Can you imagine a band named Defenders of Mediocrity? What a great band name.
But I still have faith that, like, there's levels of, like, the Secret Service and stuff that these guys have been in tenure, you know, and then they refer who you should hire next. I'm sure Trump didn't come in and just wipe clean the Secret Service and hire people. And these guys advised the president on, hey, here's the ways people are hacking us. Here's the ways people are trying to get intelligence from the American people. And there was literally an article that said Signal was one of those ways that the Secret Service told the American government could be infiltrated, because they knew politicians were talking on it. They knew that the chat was getting a little, you know, close to national security and secrets and exposing information and sharing of information. And they went ahead and did it anyways. Because just like our brand new podcast that is launching tomorrow, Vicky Mochama said on this show, she doesn't think they care. Like, and that's kind of what Pete said when he got off the plane. He's like, I don't give a fuck. This guy's
not only that,
you know, been attacking us, and so it's justified.
He basically called him a conspiracy theorist. He says this is the guy, you know, Hegseth fires back, U.S. Defense Secretary firing back at the Atlantic, basically saying they're behind the Russia hoax and all these other hoaxes. You know, I mean, by the way, characterizing the Russian interference story as a hoax is its own story on its own.
Go to our shorts and check it out, because we put up the articles that he's speaking as he's speaking.
Yeah.
And they're all not hoaxes. They're all things that have happened and were reported on by legitimate media outlets. So.
If you missed it, by the way, a good shout out from Johnny on the 25th of March, a couple of episodes ago. We hung out with Vicky Mochama. We're thrilled to be partnering with Vicky, releasing a new podcast. She's hosting it. She's the editorial producer. Our team is putting it together. This is a collaboration through the 2025 federal election that we're very proud of. The show is called Party All the Time. You'll be able to find the video episodes on our Real Talk YouTube channel, and you'll be able to catch the podcast episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Search for Party All the Time. Vicky Mochama. The new episodes are going to. Episode number 1 drops Friday morning, tomorrow morning.
It's going to be awesome.
Really exciting stuff.
Vicky is really insightful, really funny, and like witty too. So I'm sure the podcast having that name, Party All the Time, it's obviously like a play on words with the party and the house and everything. But I'm sure you're going to tune in and hear some laughs and some witty stuff from her, as well as getting that informative, up-to-the-minute news and politics that you know and love. Shout out to Matthew, who just became a Real Talker, and both Kens now. Kens, the twin Kennys.
There you go. There you go. I love that. And we sure appreciate everybody that is contributing to that and joining our YouTube memberships. Have some fun with it. I wanted to touch on a couple of things. Number one, Idris in our live chat, powered by Part Power, says, Jespo, and I'm paraphrasing Idris. I don't have it in front of me. Idris basically says, Jespo, got to be honest, didn't love your characterization of the Tyee, considering that some of Canada's most talented investigative journalists work there. Earlier in the show, I talked about how Rob Breakenridge is a conservative commentator. I said he's not some lunatic from a far left publication like the Tyee, or I said he's not some lunatic at the Tyee. It's a direct quote from Jason Kenney. It was a bit of a nerd political reference. We have a journalist from the Tyee on all the time, but Idris, absolutely take your point. My Kenney reference didn't land. The Tyee took aim at Kenney when he was premier, and he responded with that statement. And Vamp Fashions also checking in, saying that they have always been offended by people that would leave a few fingers left in a whiskey bottle. It just doesn't make sense. Like, what would be? And Vamp, I am with you. I don't understand. I understand some folks. Like, I get this, and this is maybe the collector mindset. This is like the stage before hoarder, but we all know the collectors that they want their home bars to look bigger than they are, or they want them to look as big as possible. So they've got they have that, like the bottle of tequila that they brought back from Cabo San Lucas like 3 years ago, and there's an inch left in the bottom, and like they've got 2 fingers of that special Balvenie scotch that grandma gave them for Christmas, or whatever the case may be. And I get it, because you want to hang on to it forever. The bottle looks amazing in your bar. It really ties the room together. Do you know what I mean? And I have been in this position. On my 40th birthday, in my 40th year, me and my buddy Laws, we were both turning 40 in 2017, both 77 borns. And I have always been a massive fan of a certain distillery, Ben Riach. And Ben Riach released, Johnny, in 2017, a 40-year aged Scotch. And so we're looking at this going, this is a sign from the universe. This is a sign from the universe that this 1977 cask is being released in 2017, and so we must both go buy bottles, which we did. We bought technically what we did, we bought each other the bottles, so we felt a little bit better about it, but it was kind of out of our price range, John. The bottle was quite out of our price range. It was about quadruple what we would normally spend on a bottle of Scotch. And so I got that bottle down, drinking it through my 40th year, savoring every single dram, my friends. But Vamp, I got near the end, and there were like 2 fingers left. But this bottle, every time a Scotch lover, every time a whiskey aficionado would come over, and they would go straight to that bottle. They would say, is this 1977? And they would pick it up, and they would hold it, they would cradle it, they would be so careful with it, and I could pour everyone, as we get down to those final dregs of the bottle, just a nice little splash, just a little tiny splash.
Tinkle.
And I loved sharing it until my pal Waddy, Travis Watt, who is the founder of the Edmonton Scotch Club, and we've collaborated with him on 2 different Real Talk bourbons. Waddy saw that bottle, and he was the one that informed me. He said, Jespo, that bottle is only getting worse. He said, the amount of oxygen that you've got in that bottle, it is getting worse and worse and worse by the day, and that is the day that we killed that bottle.
Worse and worse, but still
so
great.
Good.
Still
So good.
This whiskey is really bad. It's still whiskey. So, but I get what you're saying about the 1 or 2 or 3 fingers, and then you get a ton of bottles that look like that on your bar, and it looks like you're kind of running out of stock here. No, there's a full bottle underneath, but I have all these little fingers. You got to clear them out.
So this is why you got to have the Kill the Bottle party. That's why you got to have it. Blast Sheep, meantime, wants to see a $250 monthly tier on our YouTube memberships, which would include an annual wrestling match. You know what? I don't hate it.
Like, I have to take on you? You've got... You got
remember-
height and weight on me? No way.
No, you don't have to wrestle me. I'm assuming that I wrestle Blast Sheep. Is Blast Sheep signing up for $250 a month?
Is there Jello involved?
Why
is this
don't
a
we
mud
see
wrestling?
this anymore? Like, look back to the days when Justin Trudeau boxed Patrick Brazo, Senator Patrick Brazo. Do you remember that boxing match? Why is nobody doing that anymore? Everybody wants to see their politicians as pugilists, don't they? They want to see it. I think so. I wanted to put something else on your radar, friends. You know how proud we are to partner with our friends at Edify. They do just an absolutely wonderful job, and they've got their best restaurants issue out right now. Check this out, back inside fold. Wanted to put that in front of you. Look at that. Hey, real talk in uncertain times. This is our new print ad. Hey, you like that? With a QR code that takes you right to our website, RyanJespersen.com. But I'm here to talk to you about Edify, and you can check out their website right now. And when you do, not only will you see Edmonton's best restaurants feature, but you can also learn more about their Best Restaurants event, which is coming up on the 7th of April. This is going to be a Monday, the 7th of April, where you have a chance to sip, sample, and savor cuisine, and by the way, some fabulous beverages as well. But this is cuisine from all of the restaurants featured in Edify's Best Restaurants issue. So with your price of admission, VIP is sold out, but general admission, $90 per person. Do not go for dinner. Do not eat. Do not do anything before you come to this event. Okay, it starts at 6:30 on Monday, the 7th of April. VIPs will be in there at 5:45, 6:30 all the way through. Your price of admission includes everything. So you've got food and beverage tasting tokens. Additional tokens are not available for sale, but you're not going to need them. I've been to this event before. Do not worry. Plus, there's always somebody in the group that's like, do you want my extra token? Do you want my extra? So don't worry about that. If you run out of tokens, I'm going to say this. Come up and tell me. I'm going to be there. Come up. What will be our secret word? I think you just say real talker.
Secret word.
You just come up to me and you say real talker, and I'll hook you up with a token. How's that? You have also an opportunity when you sign up to donate to Top Top-Ups for Tummies, which is an Edmonton Public Schools Foundation program providing equitable access to wholesome nutrition food at schools for students who need it most. You can donate $5, $10, or $15 when you get your tickets. Again, that's edifyedmonton.com. They've got this wonderful Best Restaurants event happening at the Edmonton Convention Center. It's going to be so fun. What a beautiful venue on Monday, the 7th of April, and we really hope to see you there. We're really proud to be working with our friends at Edify. Before we get to some details on what's coming up on the next episode of Real Talk, I wanted to tell you Edmonton Opera has just rolled out their brand new season. This is the 2025-26 season, and this is a season all about legacy. Big word. Hey, we talked to Amarjeet Sohi yesterday, our most recent episode, about what's his legacy as Edmonton's mayor. Well, in the artistic context, legacy is, I guess, when you're talking about inheriting, building, and redefining an art form. That's exactly what Edmonton Opera celebrates through the 25-26 season. You can check out all the details on their website. They've just released it. You can get your tickets today. The season opening with Bravi. This is opera's greatest hits, a grand celebration of opera's most powerful and timeless music in partnership with the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. That'll be at the Winspear Center coming up this fall, October 9th and 11th. Indians on Vacation coming up in February of 26, a poignant and comedic new opera based on Thomas King's novel of the same name. That's going to be running at the Northern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium in early February, and the season will conclude with the third chapter of Wagner's legendary Ring cycle, Fate Forged in Fire. We learn by following Siegfried as he discovers his true heritage. An epic tale of heroism and fate will be performed at the beautiful McLab Theatre at the Citadel at the end of May. You can find all the details at edmontonopera.com. Edmonton's Chamber of Commerce reminding you that you can strengthen your business and support our community with an Edmonton Chamber of Commerce membership. It's going to be your business's most valuable investment, and you can learn more about what they're doing to support Canadian businesses by checking out their website, edmontonchamber.com. They've got a great bit of information on protecting our economy and strengthening Canadian trade, and they've also got resources for Canadian-owned businesses. You can check out the events link at edmontonchamber.com for your next opportunity to network with the business leaders in the Metro Edmonton region. They've had a packed month of March, including a provincial budget luncheon, an opportunity to meet the city manager, and of course, they've got their coffees with the chamber events as well. The She Leads Brunch, the Edmonton Craft Beer Festival, the Women's Month Mentorship Panel, Black Business Edmonton presenting Voices and Ventures. That's coming up on the 29th of March. You can learn more details and get your chamber membership today, just like we did at edmontonchamber.com. And I want to remind you, this is the only Real Talk sponsor that hopes you literally never have to call them ever, ever, ever. But if disaster strikes, you're going to want to remember the name Complete Care Restoration. This company, this family business, started in a garage a quarter century ago. Today, they're one of the most recognized names across the country in restoring properties and rebuilding peace of mind. If this spring brings a sewer backup, a burst pipe, or some other nightmare, leave it to the talented team of certified professionals at Complete Care Restoration. They'll work with your insurance company directly so you can save yourself the hassle. And of course, you want to let them know that Real Talk sent you. They'll treat you just like they treated us, like the place is their very own. They're the ones that built this Mercer Warehouse studio for us. It's why we are so enthusiastic in endorsing this business. We're proud to be partners with Complete Care Restoration. Cool to see Terry Evans in the chat. He's watching us live on Facebook right now. This guy's an Edmonton radio legend. Good to see Terry. He was posting just the other night his daughter, who's very proud of, just won, I don't know the official title.
Oh, yeah, the bartender thing.
Canadian Bartender of the Year. His daughter won. How cool is that?
Yeah.
If you were put on the spot in front of folks, would you be able to like whip? I'm not saying rum and coke. Would you be able to whip up? Like, do you have it in you to create something special and spectacular?
I don't know. I'm a pretty simple guy. Like, me adding like amaretto to whiskey is like, ooh, I made a drink, right? And then I'll put a little orange slice on it. But I used to bartend, and I've forgotten most of the ways. And you see when we're here, when we go to make a drink, I always point to you because you're the better barista, the better better bartender. You know more things than I do. But man, I just DJ'd last week at Foos here downtown, a bartending competition for Canadian week or whatever it is that just kicked off. Yeah. And man, these guys were on a timer. These contestants were on a timer. So they had 5 minutes. So you got to go up there with a headset. And the great thing is they're also talking. So, like, not only were they making an incredible drink, and that was obviously the main part of the people voting and how you got scored, but it also showed their personality and how they can work a room. And, man, the things they were doing, the things they were adding to this, it really is an art form. It's an incredible talent, and you can say what you want because it's alcohol, and some people refrain from that. I get that. But, I mean, also, like, the mocktail industry here and every major city, especially in Edmonton, there are bars dedicated to just straight edge drinks, non-alcoholic beverages, and they're just as good.
Carrie and I did that for Valentine's
just as creative.
Day.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, we went to the place is just right on Jasper Avenue, and it's a really neat bar. This is what I'm doing right now is I'm spinning my tires because I feel terrible right now. I can't remember what it's called. Jeez. But what? Yeah, it has a one-word name. Can you search it for me? It's a sober bar on Jasper Avenue in downtown Edmonton. And my wife Carrie and I. So Carrie's been pretty open with you. If you follow Carrie Skelton on Instagram, she's been on a journey, basically a sober journey, and something she wanted to do for herself, and I'm really proud of her. And she's like basically trying to educate herself on the mocktails and that kind of a culture. And how cool is it?
There's so many. I don't know which one.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll find out the name of it. But so they offer these classes, and so you go there. But it's super fun, right? It's like date night. So I think there was like, I don't know, maybe 14. It was like pairs. It was like 14 or 16 people in the room.
Cool.
And their bartender goes through, and they it's not just like they actually have, like, it's not cheap garbage. You actually think, like, if you're going to do, like, for example, de-alcoholized gin, they've got to make the gin. They distill the gin and then they de-alcoholize it. So it's actually pricier. Yeah. So the cocktails are still like $16, $18, but they did a Long Island iced tea, like a virgin. They don't really call them virgin drinks, but yeah, like a virgin Long Island iced tea.
A virgin would be like,
and I'm going to be honest, like, real talk, I'm like, if you bartend, or if you know Long Island iced teas, it's basically all booze, basically. And I'm sitting there going, a virgin Long Island iced tea, right? And then we make it, and they teach us how to make it so you can make it at home. Dude, it was fantastic.
It's like these vegan meat products where you have them, like the Beyond Meat or whatever, and you're like, man, this is really close to what hot dogs and hamburgers taste like. Sometimes even in taste tests, you can't tell with some of those things. It's the same thing. Like, people think, like what you thought, it's virgin, like they just don't put alcohol in. No, they're putting in de-alcoholized gin and vodka and whiskey. So you still get all those flavor notes. You still get, like, your palate is still exposed to, like, the smokiness or the richness or the salty, whatever it is, right? Yeah. So it really is insane. And like my partner, especially, like, she does not drink. So, like, she goes to mocktail places at least once a month. There are a ton here that I'm looking at in Edmonton.
The place is called Spilt.
There you go.
The place is called Spilt.
But I see 7.
SPILT.ca.
There we go.
Check it out. This one's for free, you guys, because I love what you're doing. Spilt.ca, Spilt Zero Proof is the name of it. And if you're someone who's, like, either been, maybe you're sort of wrestling with your alcohol use, maybe you're an alcoholic, or maybe you're just looking to make a healthier choice. I think we could all do that. I think I told you I finally got a family doctor, and I went and I had my annual a couple of weeks ago. I'm thrilled to finally have a family doctor. It's been years without. And we did the whole thing where we're getting to know each other a little bit. And he's like, tell me about your habits. Tell me about, what does your diet look like? How many times do you break a sweat a week?
Wow.
And he's like, how many drinks do you have a week? And I was like,
private.
I don't really enjoy that. What's private? Can you imagine saying that to your doctor? That's private.
It's a little personal.
He's like, tell me.
That's a little personal.
But, I just think that there's room for everybody, regardless. Listen, I only speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for anybody else. But there's certainly room in my life and anybody else that drinks to maybe look for ways to drink a little bit less. And I think that this is great. If you still want to find a way to socialize with your friends, if you want to normalize sobriety, it should be normalized.
Yeah.
Then you can check out this. And this is kind of a new thing right now. Like, I'll be curious to see, you remember, like, and I'm not comparing the business models, don't read too much into it, but you remember like back in the day when like a new cupcake shop was opening on every street corner?
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of like everybody's into cupcakes. Nobody's doing birthday cakes anymore. Everybody's doing cupcakes.
Yeah.
And then these beautiful shops are opening, doing beautiful work, but each cupcake was like $6.
Yeah.
You know, 12 of them are like $70, whatever they were. And you're kind of like, I don't know how long this is going to last. I'll be curious to see. Does the public buy? Is there more of a sober movement?
Oh, it's staying.
Dude, they say millennials and Gen Z
We just talked
drinking,
about this.
They're drinking like half of what we're drinking.
Yeah, it's going to be like that more and more. And I want these places to be around because you know what one good thing about alcohol is, and I know I'm going to get gripe for this, but it's the social interaction. When people go out for drinks and have conversation or talk about what's bothering them or get something off their chest, that's one of the reasons I think that millennials aren't drinking as much and Gen Z is because we are sort of a little more isolated now. You can get everything you need at home. You can watch your podcasts and get in the chat. You don't have to go out to interact with people and have debates and stuff like that. So I love this. If you don't like alcohol, if you want to abstain from alcohol, great. But still go out and try a mocktail or try some good food. Get into that culinary and artistic aspect of Edmonton. Because when you go out, you meet and you see people and you interact with people, and all of that is good for mental health.
Okay, so here's the deal. This show is again, we don't really care about this kind of show's going a little longer than normal, but I guess this election campaign is kind of going to be the way it's going to go because there's a lot that we want to cover, and we want to make sure that we're covering the stories that deserve to be covered. And I've got a comment here. I don't mind these comments at all. I love comments like this from Randy in our live chat. Randy, thank you for watching live on YouTube. He says, Jespo, when are we going to get off the American MAGA preoccupation? I'll comment on that in a sec, but here's his comment. He says, the MAGA preoccupation, and let's discuss Rakhi Pancholi losing it in the Alberta legislature and having to apologize for her comments. And you think that she will be premier someday? That from Randy. Number one, it's not a MAGA preoccupation. The United States is talking about annexing our territory and blowing up our trade relationship in the middle of a federal election. So it's not a MAGA preoccupation, and we won't stop talking about that. But Randy, I will take your point. This is an interesting story that was actually not on my radar. And you know that Rakhi Pancholi has been, I think, fair to say, a rising star with the Alberta NDP. She was out of the gates early. The first interview she did when she announced her Alberta NDP leadership campaign was right here on Real Talk. She was the first one, said it on Real Talk first, that she was considering or would consider as Alberta NDP leader and Premier of Alberta getting rid of the consumer carbon tax. Sent huge waves. And then, of course, she announced that she was pulling out of the leadership race when Naheed Nenshi entered. Now she's deputy leader. Obviously, it paid off for her, and I do think she has a bright political future. Here's the story, as reported by the Edmonton Journal's Matthew Black. Alberta NDP, she's the Edmonton Whitemud MLA, Rakhi Pancholi, apologizing for a profane confrontation with a minister, prompting a call by the speaker, that's Nathan Cooper of the Legislative Assembly, he's out of Three Hills, to consider establishing a code of conduct for MLAs. I love that now, in 2025, we're now considering establishing a code of conduct. But about a week and a half ago, Edmonton Whitemud MLA and Deputy NDP leader Rakhi Pancholi heckled Minister Jason Nixon as proceedings ended for the day, calling him, quote, absolutely disgusting. You can read about this at edmontonjournal.com. A day later, Dan Williams, the Minister for Mental Health and Addictions, raised the incident as a point of privilege in the Assembly, alleging that Pancholi had made stronger profane remarks while confronting the minister outside of the chamber in the building's rotunda, calling Nixon, earmuffs kids, a colossal piece of shit and blocking his path. Just a couple of days ago, Pancholi rising in the Assembly to apologize for the conduct, acknowledging it, quote, negatively affected the decorum of this House. She said it was wrong for me to continue the debate with the member after the adjournment of the House. It was wrong for me to use the insulting language that I used toward the member. She said she was emotional at the time during last Tuesday's QP, the question period, which came after Nixon heckled the New Democrats. Nixon asking MLA Sharif Haji, when will you condemn Hamas? When Haji was talking about Danielle Smith's interview with Breitbart. Justice critic, stay with me, I know we're dropping lots of names here, but the NDP justice critic, former minister Irfan Sabir, called the remark borderline racist. Nixon responding that his comment was directed at several NDP members and challenging them to condemn the group, to condemn Hamas. So there's the background. Yeah.
No
would say a few
extracurricular
things.
debating.
I would say, number one, no matter who you are,
Yeah.
no matter how bright of a star you are in your party, no matter if you're a man or a woman, no matter if you're representing a riding in the city or in the country, no matter if you've been around the Alberta legislature for 30 years or for 3 minutes, you cannot confront one another, elected members or otherwise, in the rotunda. You definitely cannot call anybody a colossal piece of shit, for sure. I would say, why am I so hesitant to wade into this? I would say that if you look at the names that are involved here, draw your own conclusions. But we're talking about Rakhi Pancholi, who's a person of color. We're talking about Sharif Haji, who is a person of color. And we're talking about Irfan Sabir, who is a person of color. And you've got Jason Nixon. I don't have the complete context, but Nixon asking them, or asking in particular the NDP MLA when they're going to condemn Hamas, Sharif Haji, in the context or response to a question about Danielle Smith doing an interview on Breitbart. The one I don't think really has anything to do with the other. I'm not going to justify anything that Rakhi Pancholi said. You definitely can't call you can't call anybody. If you're an elected representative, you can't call anybody a colossal piece of shit. I think can we all agree on that?
I don't want anyone calling anyone that.
Right? You don't want to be, there's got to be a certain decorum, and we expect that. I don't care if you're far left, far right. I don't care if you're in the middle, the centrist. No, I'm just joking. No centrists get elected. But if you're you can't behave like that. You can't. I would also say I understand where they might be coming from. Mr. Sabir, MLA Sabir, saying that that's a borderline racist comment. Asking, quite frankly, 3 MLAs, people of color, all 3 of them, when they're going to condemn Hamas, I would say also is probably, if we want to talk about a code of conduct, that might fall in a gray area or even closer to black and white for some people. But to answer your question, Randy, when am I going to touch on this? I don't think that that's justifiable. And I think that Rakhi Pancholi not only was right to apologize, but I think that she had no choice but to apologize, right? I mean, that I think that's obvious.
Yeah.
That's obvious for sure.
I feel like it's the same with us. We work hard here in the office all day, but when we leave this office, it's time to, get away from work, and to do that after the debate was over is kind of like outside of work hours, number one. But also I calling someone a colossal piece of shit, that is like how have they harmed you?
Pretty next level. That's pretty next level.
Yeah. Even if you don't like what they're doing, fine. Get emotional. I like seeing emotion with politicians. I like when they get angry. I like when things get a little bit spicy. But calling someone a colossal piece of shit after the debate is kind of ended it's a little outside for me. But I also don't like the idea of a rule book on how to do but like I said, outside of certain guidelines or lines of fair play would be good. Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Cassandra Pollock, to Ms. KD, and to Noob Try Again, who have all become YouTube channel members. We sure appreciate you guys. Mark says, I'm really appreciating, PBS took a shot there. I'm just catching up on our live chat powered by Park Power. Always want to make sure you guys have the voice in the platform. On the Marjorie Taylor Greene comment, she took aim at PBS. Mark says, I appreciate the quality of journalism, the devotion to factual truth of PBS reporters. Says you may find Marjorie Taylor Greene entertaining, but this is actually pretty scary. Ambustion says, all this talk, you guys are making me want a pina colada. Ambustion, that was another one of the drinks that the mocktails they taught us how to make. They have de-alcoholized rum, and it's honestly not the worst. I'm not going to say it was as good as barrel aged, nice, that beautiful dark rum. You know the ones I'm talking about, these Caribbean rums that'll just knock your socks off, but still really pretty good. Ms. KD, by the way, says they've been sober for 7 months and says there are really some great options on mocktails. Randy says to me in response to the Rakhi Pancholi comments, says, thank you, Jespo, for some balance. Guys, we're always balanced. I understand that, I had somebody write in yesterday and they were upset. It was a YouTube comment, and that's fine. I responded to it.
calmly and in measured fashion. I didn't call him a colossal piece of shit.
I counted down from 10 and then I answered.
And listen, I understand where this commenter is coming from. I want to put this on the record again. I want to be very clear about this. We have Amarjeet Sohi on the show in an exclusive, by the way. He's sitting down talking to us why he's not going to resign as mayor, why he's running for the Carney Liberals. Quite a claim, by the way, from Amarjeet Sohi to say that he, as of Thursday of last, we're talking to you right now on a Thursday. So he says, he's talking to us on a Wednesday. So he says, as of 6 days earlier, he had not decided whether or not he was going to run as mayor or whether or not he was going to run for Mark Carney. I do think it's interesting that apparently Carney himself reached out to Amarjeet Sohi and convinced him to run in Edmonton Southeast. Maybe there's more to it. I wonder if Sohi maybe wondered if he was going to lose running in the next mayoral race. That could possibly be it. But here's the point I wanted to make. A Real Talker left a comment on the YouTube episode and says, well, when can we expect to hear from the Conservative in Edmonton Southeast? Like, you basically just let the Liberal come on in and have 30 minutes of time on the show. I said, absolutely true. And I said, and I bet you that Liberals in Edmonton Centre and NDP supporters in Edmonton Centre, for example, are probably wondering when I'm going to give them the platform, because we had James Cumming in here, the Conservative MP, talking about Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative platform for half an hour. Listen, the reality is, logistically and otherwise, and plus we'd lose all of you because nobody's this interested. We're not going to do every single riding in our province or every single riding with every single candidate across the country. But you will not be hearing just from Conservatives. You will not be hearing just from Liberals or just from NDP voices. We track the stuff, we're equitable in our coverage, and we appreciate you holding our feet to the fire. So keep the emails coming to talk@ryanjespersen.com. And look at this, Watty, Travis Watt. How would I know that he was going to be watching? This is the guy that taught me.
I saw this comment.
My whiskey was going bad. This was the guy that taught me I have to finish those final 2 fingers in the bottle. Watty says, I am watching the show live on Facebook from a hot tub in Jasper.
Woo!
Watty says, keep up the great work. Pal, we love you, and we hope you have a wonderful time in Jasper. I wonder if he's taking advantage of that 50% off signature cabins deal at the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge. This is your last weekend to take advantage of that.
A lot of deals going on in Jasper right now, which is like, it's funny because if and when I go up there, I haven't been up there since everything happened. I'm going to be like, no, just charge me full price. But they're trying. Go to Jasper, spend your money. The community is rebuilding. They need your dough. Go up there, have a weekend away. I mean, I woke up this morning and I was like almost happy to see a little snow on the ground again, because I was like, I think we're getting a little too excited that it's spring already. We know like sometimes winter lasts here till like June. I know that's a joke, but it's a great weekend to go up and enjoy that whole cabin lifestyle and relax.
Dude, it is
kick your feet up,
dumping
and
snow.
At the same time, support some people that need the dough.
Absolutely. Well said, Johnny. It is dumping snow out there. Make sure to check it out. Just in time for the Jasper Pride and Ski Festival. You can learn more check out our Wednesday episode, My Jasper Memories, presented by Tourism Jasper. Quick hits before we wrap on the Rakhi Pancholi story. I'm just going to hand it over to the live chat right now, powered by Park Power. Tony says, oh, please. The pearl clutching from Conservatives on this is laughable. Nothing from them when their MLA said that trans kids are like shit in cookie batter. Stay blue, everybody. Another one. One of you said that Krabby Chris says Pancholi's 100% correct. Jason Nixon is my MLA. Kathy says, if we're going to implement a code of conduct, can it please include no more heckling? I don't know, Kathy. To be honest, I think heckling, I'm not talking about swearing, and I'm not talking about that, but I actually think, to me, pounding on the desks and heckling, that to me that's kind of part of it. That's part of the drama of it. That's kind of the presentation. It's part of the tradition of it. Maybe I'm off on this. Send us a flamethrower if you feel differently to talk@ryanjespersen.com. Cassandra says Rakhi is speaking the truth about Jason Nixon. Ambustion says, I'm so sick of idiots shadowboxing. No one is for Hamas. Jill says, oh, geez, is this going to be a woman raised her voice so she's a bad person story? Donna says you can't say it even if the shoe fits. Eddie the Valiant wonders, did Jason Nixon ever apologize for harassing a private landowner while hanging out on their land with his hunting buddies? Justin wonders, when has a Conservative elected representative ever stood up and apologized for their behavior? Yeah, okay. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. So you can let me, Ms. Kitty says I should apologize for my comment about the Thai. What? Not even close. I was quoting Jason Kenney, but there you go. I clarified. That's important. Welcome, Blah Sheep, to becoming a member on our YouTube channel, and to all the rest of you. This is super fun. We're going to have some fun with
an air
this
horn over
in the
here.
years. We do need an air horn.
Every time it happens.
Grounded in reality says heckling and bird dogging is sacred in politics, and to be honest with you, I kind of agree.
Wow, bird dogging. That's
JJ with the Muppets reference. Statler and Waldorf would disagree. Hey, remember the two old guys in the opera box? The two, you're too young. Are you too young?
They always flip-flop. It was funny. They'd be like, that was a great show. I had a great time. Yeah, it was good. It went kind of long, though. Well, actually, it wasn't that good. It was horrible. Get him off the stage. I hate it.
Amazing. Hey, we want to thank you. I've had a lot of fun in this episode. It starts with Rob Breakenridge and rolls all the way
if you don't love
through.
your job,
then what are you doing?
Get out of there.
We're going to be back at it tomorrow, and this will be the third of 3 partnerships that we announced through this federal election campaign. We wanted to deliver for you, Real Talkers, and that's why we're teaming up with the crew at Meredith, Bosencool, and Phillips every Friday. They're going to offer us their bipartisan perspectives on who won the week, the Liberals, the Conservatives, or other, and that'll roll all the way through till April 28th. That's Election Day. Make sure you tell your friends about what we're doing, and thanks in advance for your support. We love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harman Kandola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjespersen.com.